called out sick from work yesterday and Tucker Carlson came into the restaurant. Merry Christmas to me! Every holiday season, I rewatch Smash, and this year I'm taking you with me. Today we're watching episode 7, The Workshop. Of course, we have to start this episode with Julia and Michael. Oh, you look good today. You too. Do they think people don't know? If you remember in the end of last episode, Karen was told that the card that she got at the bar mitzvah was from Bobby Raskin, who's basically Tommy Mottola. We see Karen arrive to the studio and she was late because of the train. He starts to sing, and even though it sounds beautiful, he's like, stop, stop, stop. You're trying to blow out my speakers, so it's not going well. But she pulls it back and she sounds great and she looks great. And now he's in love with her. So there you go. Back in rehearsal, Michael and Julia sneak off to a little room to make out. And this is awkward. Tom walks in and catches them. Tells them that they're both needed. So they leave, and wouldn't you know it, fucking Ellis. What does he do? Does he just like lurk in corners and hope he catches something? I also found that interesting. Did you know that? Opening sequence. After the opening sequence, we find out that the heat is stuck on in the rehearsal space. They can't get it to work. They can't get anybody to come fix it. It's a whole thing. Bobby Raskin apparently heard Karen's track and called her. He goes and tells the stage manager that she has to leave, and she just takes off. But as she's on her way out the door, Miss Bernadette Peters enters the room. You should know that I love Bernadette Peters, and I think she's magical. But this woman's character is an absolute nightmare. I'm going to be saying some things about her, and I mean the character, not Bernadette, so don't come for me in the comments. Okay, as we were. We find out that this is Lee Conroy, Ivy Lynn's mother. She's like this Broadway legend, and everybody's completely losing their minds over her. Literally, they're all circling around, and they're like, oh my God, sing something! Sing Everything's Coming Up Roses! Oh, we don't have a pianist, and Tom's like, don't be ridiculous, I'll play. Doesn't miss a beat, just whips off the fur coat, and then turns around and makes Ivy Lynn her unwilling prop, bursts into song, dominates the room. Now we know where Ivy Lynn gets it from. And the audience loves her, and she loves the audience for loving her. You can tell that Ivy Lynn is deeply not okay with it. Also, Derek checks in with her to make sure that they're okay, and she says that they are fine. I'm fine. And then the door bursts open, and Michael Swift's family comes. Oh, we were just close by, so we came to see Daddy. Close up on Julia's reaction to that. Girl, play it cool. She does not play it cool. She runs from the room. Derek has some really funny laugh lines in this one. As soon as she leaves, he's like, that was the least offensive thing I've said in days. I don't like Derek. Tom comes outside to find her, and we see this like cyclist who's just sort of staring. And we realize that what he's staring at is Julia, who is sitting on his bike. Lean on the wall, sit on a bench. What are you doing? She confesses to Tom that they definitely bang. Then in true Julia fashion, I have to go home. You have to finish the day without me. Girl, we have all had to finish a shift when we had some guy problems happening. Some of us have even had to finish a shift when the guy problem was in the room with us. Girl, go back to work. Did not go back to work. In fact, as soon as Tom came in, everybody's like, where's Julia? Tom's like, let's work on a song. And he's like, no, the song is fine. We need to work on the book. But like Julia's. Ellis pounces on this moment. He pulls Eileen aside and he just tattletales. Julia's having an affair with Michael. Eileen is like, thank you so much. But if you utter a word about this, you will never work in this town ever again. And he is petrified. Julia walks in the door and finds her son with his friend. He's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I live here. Jason's like, bye, Mrs. Houston. And she's like, don't you be so polite, you little drug addict. Again, it's all about Julia. Julia just completely admonishes him because she has her workshop going on. Leo's like, I do know what you're in the middle of. I think it sucks, and I think you suck. And he storms out. It's amazing. Back at Ivy Lynn, she's with her mother. They're watching a Marilyn movie. She's going off about how Derek is a really important director. Mom can tell that she's nervous, and she says, I was over getting nervous by the time I was your age, but you're used to the ensemble. Which is just... I can't. She's over there taking her meds. She says, I've got these sleeping pills now because of the prednisone, but I don't want to start taking one thing on top of another. Lee says, I want a Tony without any of it. And she says, Marilyn is a star. Look at that charisma. I don't know how you're going to pull it off. So Ivy takes a sleeping pill. Now we're at the $7 martini bar, and Ellis is telling Eileen that he thinks that he can find somebody that can step in and fix the boiler or whatever the hell. He says it's hard to understand him because he speaks Chinese. And Eileen says, I've never heard of a Chinese plumber before. Girl, what? What are you saying? It's the day of the show, and Derek has got this script all over his bed. I think this is unhinged. How can anybody live like this? How can anybody work like this? See that Ivy hasn't slept a wink despite the sleeping pill, but her nightmare of a mother is like, I slept like a rock. We're at the workshop, and we find out that Bobby Raskin wants Karen to come back and record right now. She's like, no, I can't leave. I've got to stay for the workshop. And they're like, but you're making $200 a week in this? How are these kids living? I don't understand. Ivy's just really irritated by that. Eileen brought her $7 martini bartender in, and he's got like some friend of his who's going to work on the boiler room for them under the table. She can't get into the lock, so she breaks it off with a wrench. Bartender's like, hey, who was that for? And she's like, my soon-to-be ex-husband. She's so sassy. Back inside, Julia tells Michael that Leo knows. She breaks up with him, and he's like, don't do this to me again. Derek brings Michael and Julia in to work on a scene. It's a scene before Lexington and 52nd Street, which is one of my favorites. I just want to focus on this outfit here. What Julia's wearing here is stunning. The cowl neck, the duster, the shoes, it's all work. Derek was reading for Marilyn, but he steps off because it's not working. And then Julia starts reading for Marilyn. So Michael and Julia are now having an argument, and they go completely off script. It ends up being great. Tom's hot lawyer has arrived, and he finds Sam, and he's like, excuse me, are you in the show? Tell Tom I'm here. Apparently his name is John. I didn't know. Some suits come in and it turns out that they're like reps for like Scarlett Johansson and like Michelle Williams. The ensemble starts speculating that maybe Ivy is going to be replaced, and then Sam pulls back the curtain and shows that Ivy can hear them. Sam storms off and goes to tell Tom what he heard. In the middle of that conversation, John comes up to kiss Tom, and you can tell that nobody there is really happy about that. Tom then tells Ivy that Sam is too straight. Here's the big reveal. She says, oh, for crying out loud, he's gay. Amazing reaction from Tom. Tom's like, are you okay? And she's like, my mother is doing everything she can to undermine me. Karen doesn't hesitate. She exhibits no restraint. She takes and she takes and she takes. Eileen invites the bartender to stay and watch the show. Okay, the moment's arrived. Derek is here and he is introducing the show to all of these suits who look like a barrel of laughs. Ivy Lynn's mother arrives late. I don't understand. She was in the city to see the show. What was she doing? Like, don't mind me, I'm not here. And Derek introduces her. Lee Conroy, ladies and gentlemen. He's like, are you kidding me? I might get in trouble for this, but I have to show this moment where Ivy Lynn just belts. Oh my God. This man is all of us. Ivy Lynn starts the 20th Century Fox Mamba. Karen's like, remember when that was me? When I was Marilyn? I did that. He seems actually really proud of her daughter. Everybody's having a great time. Karen's dancing with this. Frank is so proud of his wife and he's just smooching her. And the baseball number and Karen falls off the bleacher. It's amazing. Look at her. Woo! Derek's like, that's intermission. During intermission, Derek decides to talk to Ivy and tells her that he needs her to focus and the show needs her to focus. I was like, you never speak to an actor like that at intermission. He's like, I will if she's off her game. This episode is the first time that we ever see Lexington and 52nd Street. The song is amazing. It's so dramatic. I love this man in it. I also love this moment here where they put the box fans under Ivy Lynn. I love it. Okay, the workshop ends. Everybody comes and takes their bow. Lee is beside herself. She is so proud. It's insane. Why isn't she just... Hot Lawyer John is awkward in the hallway with Tom. Derek tells the cast that he couldn't be prouder, which is weird. Nice Derek is actually more terrifying than mean Derek. The whole cast makes fun of Karen for falling off of the set. They also kind of talk shit about Ivy, whose friend they were first. She also confesses to the rest of the cast that she completely missed an opportunity with Bobby Raskin to do this $200 a week gig. She's like, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Her friend's like, she wouldn't have missed it for the world. Okay, here's where it goes down, all right? Ivy Lynn is approached by her mother, who tells her that the songs were excellent, the direction was excellent. She just loved the whole thing. And Ivy's like, what about me? How was I? And she's like, well. Ivy lets her have it. She's like, you're my mother and you can't ever say a kind word to me. I think this shot is weird. What's going on up here? Here's this thing that she and Karen both do throughout the entire series. Well, something will be going on. They'll be like, you know who else did that? Marilyn. You know who was just like that? Marilyn. You'll see. He doesn't get it. She's like, she was a legend. Ivy's like, she was an unhappy, drug-addicted disaster and it was because her mother didn't love her. And Derek hears the whole thing. What? How are these people all just eavesdropping on the most important conversation? It's the next day and Lee is going home and Ivy will not look at her mother. This is tough to believe, okay? They're both dressed. They're both in a full face of makeup. How did they manage that in that tiny apartment without looking at each other? I'm just asking. Lee finally confesses that she never wanted Ivy Lynn to be an actor. So she knows how heartbreaking this world is. But she thinks that Ivy Lynn is going to make it because she's a star. Now we're in Eileen's office and apparently they got a lot of bad reviews. I can't think of anything else except for Julia's sunglasses. What? What? Okay, they're immediately talking about replacing Ivy. Guy from CAA has Michelle Williams, Sutton Foster. Interestingly enough, when she says Sutton Foster, our boy Christian here says stop. What are these sunglasses? What are they? What is she trying to show us here with this moment? Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm too sad. Tom indulges in a very delusional and paranoid fantasy that Derek is trying to get rid of Ivy because she embarrassed him in rehearsal the other day. And they're like, no, 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 no. And Tom says that the real problem is Michael Swift. And Julia agrees. So they fire him. Then we're back at home and Julia is telling her son that she's firing Michael. He's like, very good. Then he bursts into tears. You're ruining your boy. Very short amount of time for last thoughts here, but I hate Julia. I understand why Ivy's the way she is and what's wrong with Derek. And what's wrong with Karen? Like, why does this have to be her moment? Like, go somewhere else. Seriously, she had the opportunity to go record for somebody like Tommy Mottola. She could have been the next Catherine McPhee. Okay, I'll see you in the next part.